So in my last video, I failed to make a few things clear. So before getting into this one, I want to clarify that up. For starters, a lot of people, and I mean like 12 or more, expressed that they were confused why I had Pipes' backpack up like this for the whole video. And if I get 12 comments about a thing, that means that there were way more people who wanted to ask about it, but chose not to say anything. So, to explain that quirk of the video, while the figure may have been designed to have the backpack bent across their back, in the show, the animation model always had the backpack sticking straight off of them, meaning that I could either commit to the figure looking maximum screen accurate, which would be what the figure was going for, or I could assume that it was not a mistake of the photography to have the backpack down like that, and ditch screen accuracy for the robot mode to gain a less bulky backpack but ultimately make it worse on the accuracy front. I chose to stick with the screen-accurate interpretation of their robot mode. Secondly, people were confused as to why I was complaining that there wasn't enough paint, as 1, I don't really care about paint, and 2, the lack of it makes the figure look more accurate. Well, covering 2 first, it doesn't matter that it's more accurate this way. The way they made this more accurate is by just being cheap and putting less effort into it so they didn't spend any money. And it honestly makes the figure stand out when everything else in the WFC has been upgraded in terms of the visuals, so this fits your collection less now. And the reason I was hung up on the paint is because that would have been something, anything that could have been done to justify the price of this figure even a little bit more. This is a figure smaller than ever, with less paint than ever, and it's more expensive than ever. In not one aspect of this figure did they try to earn our dollar. And there is nothing that pisses me off more in this fandom than when it feels like a company took our patronage for granted. Like we owed them our money for the privilege of being screwed. Anyways, I hope that cleared some stuff up. So on to the video, and on to a big thank you to Patreon supporter and awesome friend of the show, Isaiah Jones. I was just sitting there one day with no packages on the way, only to have a box appear on my front step. I opened it up to find the first wave of the vintage headmasters in it. I was super confused till I saw who sent it and asked them about it, since apparently the note that came with it got lost in the mail somehow. Isaiah previously helped me get a hold of the convention-exclusive Ravage and some other stuff. So he had my address, and when Walmart.com messed up and sent him a second case of the Headmaster reissues at no additional cost, he decided to ship it over to me. Normally, I wouldn't accept a gift like this, since I don't want to deprive you guys of your stuff or your money. But you know what? I, as a former employee of the company, am happy to profit off of Walmart's mistake. So we are going to take a look at 2 of the figures from that case today. It might be a bit of a mistake to cover 2 at once, considering I'm starting this review 600 words into this script, but I am nothing if not stupid. Thank you again, Isaiah. Starting off in alt mode this time because variety is the spice of life. I can't say vehicle mode because... And these look, shall we say, uneven. Brainstorm is a retool of the Titan's Return blur, and the bulk of what separates these two visually is not the colors, but a large number of new accent pieces. As honestly, the colors don't clash against each other as much as you might expect. They do have their own unique schemes, but you can actually swap the 2 front sections of these to create new-looking vehicles. It's kind of shocking just how different these now look, and how not wrong they are too. Kind of makes me imagine Hasbro releasing 5 versions of this mold with different accent pieces that you can swap around in the hopes of creating a genericon that people would buy a couple dozen of each so they can mix and match to create their own absolute army of unique figures. I can't believe Hasbro missed out on that money-making opportunity. I do have to say that despite having these terrible little casters, this is a figure that rolls amazingly. One of the best in my collection even. I guess that's what you get for being based on Blur. Then you have Mindwipe, who is absolutely based on nothing, and nothing will ever be based on him. And stop! I see you there writing in the comments about Draculatron or whatever the fuck he's called. Draculatron is just Mindwipe during his goth phase. You cannot convince me otherwise. Anyways, this guy is a bit of a cluster. His wings are quite the experience, all uneven with the amputee arms glued to them, and he's got really ugly knees if you want him to have the power to waddle like a penguin everywhere. He's also incredibly stiff, and it reminds me of... If you got that reference, congratulations on either watching a lot of crap movies or watching any of the many YouTubers who watch crap movies. Transformation on these is interesting to say the least. Lots of you are probably familiar with Brainstorms regardless of whether or not you've handled him or the Titan's Return blur before, because it's the exact same transformation that's on the 86 blur, only better, but with parts forming for the head. The 86 version just has like 2 extra steps over this that don't amount to anything and are relatively finicky, so I would say that this is the better transformation of the 2. And the nice thing about this is the extra parts forming is optional. Then you've got Mindwipe, and this isn't great. If it weren't for the legs and the silly little wing swap, this would be a pretty boring transformation that isn't really trying much at all. You kind of burrito the wings up to form the legs, flip the fake wings around to the front, and straighten out the bat legs, and you're done. And you end up with these 2 completely inverted boys. I can't really think of too many figures with more opposite color schemes than these 2, and with the names, I can't help but feel like these are mirror universe versions of each other. Mindwipe definitely comes out as the worst of the 2, with his incredibly short thighs and insanely long shins, paint job that devours all his detail, split wide stance because his legs just can't straighten out, and generally dumpy, unthreatening appearance. It doesn't help that he's wearing seriously baggy pants and the world's biggest clown shoes. Plus, he has the bat head hanging off of his lower spine from his profile view. You can either have that staring off into space or screaming instructions into the back of his robot head like a Google Maps from hell. Turn left at the next bend, fuckface! His headmaster seems to be based on Frankenstein, which is weird when everything else about him screams Dracula. And it's not often that you see a character with a built-in double chin. I know he doesn't actually drink blood, but he couldn't if he needed to with that MF Doom mask keeping his mouth an extra couple inches away from what he needs to bite. This man is hating life, and he is not intimidating because of it. On the other hand, Brainstorm is looking pretty sly with his robot mode, all athletically built and fast-looking with all the best robo details, though I'm not quite sure how these little wing pieces are supposed to go. The back of his seat here should have probably been painted orange to fit with the character's normal design, but honestly, I think it might look better this way. And I find it hard to express just how cool his arms look to me. The two-toned, split between the dark and bordering on white grays his forearms have, plus the teal looks awesome. Honestly, more figures need complex color breakup like this because it looks sick as hell. Whether that comes in the form of paint or different colored plastics, I don't care. Whereas with Mindwipe, whom all his details are devoured in dark plastics, everything on this boy pops. And then you get to the head, and now I'm the one hating life. Oh my god, why would they do this? They gave him the most hideous head I think any Transformers figure has ever had to suffer in order to have it look like the shitty Headmasters anime. Brainstorm was in the Rebirth, and he looked so much cooler there. Why would they do this? This is the retro line. It should either look like the original toy, who had the cooler head, or it should look like the original show, which had the cooler head from the toy. Scratch that. It had any other head in the history of the franchise. It was automatically cooler. Oh, why would you give him the human face? Fucking gross. And then the forehead is honestly what offends me the most. He looks like a Transformer that's gone bald. And then he's got these little bits dangling next to his head that look like some kind of horrible hair curls. God, this head is the worst. Every now and then I find myself okay with the Headmaster gimmick, and the fact that I can get rid of this abomination is now one of them. The accessories on Brainstorm are pretty good, with a weaponized shield that is completely optional on the parts forming front, being able to be removed, but in neither mode do you have to remove it, though the alt mode is fairly incomplete without it. The peg for this could really stand to be somewhere else, as it does mount to his arm a little weird, and he's got what appears to be a detached null ray that has a bar that prevents it from going all the way down into the hand for some reason. Then you got Mindwipe, who has what looks to be a naval cannon on a handle, and a thing. Whatever it is, it looks like something the brutes from Halo would enjoy using. But I can't help but shake the feeling they really could have made this look like anything more than what it is. It's literally a plastic piece with two hinges. It could have looked like anything they wanted. It did not have to be this big, or this shape, or this much nothing. Posability on Mindwipe is not particularly good by modern standards, but he's got some highlights. He's got a Headmaster head, and if you know what those are like, then you know. Back wings got some flap, shoulders go up, all the way up, maximum elbows, sword-wielding wrists, unimpeded legs, knees actually bend more than a 90, which is less useful than you think when the thighs are shorter than his knees are wide, and his feet have a tilt up and down. So the joints he does have great range, but some of them still wind up weird, and he doesn't have a ton of joints. Hilariously, Brainstorm with the more lithe build actually ends up worse on the posing front here. Headmaster head, shoulders don't even get close to a 90, though there are a few ways you can cheat it for more. Elbows only pull a 90, wrist swiv, legs are unimpeded going forward and to the side, but not back at all unless you remove the backpack, at which point they are unimpeded in that direction as well. Then more than 90 knees, and some fake toe up at the feet. So yeah, this guy is worse than a Mindwipe, though I do think he still almost always ends up looking better whatever pose you put him in. And so there's not really a unified conclusion I can make about these two now at the end. Brainstorm has a good alt mode, a good transformation, and a good robot mode, with the worst head in history and really behind the times articulation. Mindwipe has a passable alt mode, a not good transformation, an okay robot mode, and a bad head with less behind the times articulation. If I was to recommend one of these, it would be Brainstorm, but only with the caveat that you find a different head that works for the body, since this is the ugliest son of a bitch I've ever seen. Mindwipe, on the other hand, was really mediocre even for the time, with his best feature being his posability, but he's not really special on that front anymore. Still better than some of what comes out today, but he has absolutely aged more than the Brainstorm. If you don't hate the head on Brainstorm like I do, I think it can be enjoyed by the modern Transformers fan. Mindwipe, on the other hand, you could stand to forget exists and not lose anything of value because of it. And that's not half of what I have to say, but it's enough what I have to say. And I know, you know, what everyone else tells you to do at the end of these videos. So, if you liked what you saw here, please do that. And if you'd like to take it a step further, then please, share this video with any friend you think may be interested. I hope you all enjoyed listening to me waste your time.